Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining in. I'm Chase Well with Twitch Film, and we are sitting here chatting with the boss, writer and director of Looper, Mr. Ryan Johnson. How you doing, sir?
Hey hey, guys, I'm good. I feel ruddy.
You
I look
ready?
ruddy on camera.
You look ready. You look
Ruddy, Ruddy.
you look beautiful. Um, so
Oh, you're
we're,
too sweet.
we're gonna go ahead and kick this off with Katie Rich. Is she ready? Yeah, we're gonna kick this off with Katie Rich at Cinema Blend. She's gonna ask you some neat questions, and then I'm gonna take over from there.
Can you guys see me?
Cool.
Can you
Hi,
see and hear
Katie.
me?
Katie,
Hey. Wh-
where's the hamburger
The
hat?
licensing fees for the hamburger hat are outrageous. I couldn't get it to
Oh,
work
for
out for this
God's
thing.
sake.
I know the budget was too low. Apologies.
Paltry
Well, so
excuse.
I've been
Hello,
watching.
Katie.
Hello everybody. Hello Chase and Ryan. Ryan, I've been watching
Hi,
your Twitter
Katie.
feed
hmm
closely, and I saw somebody made a crack about why didn't they just drop the loopers into dinosaur nests instead of having them or drop the
Right.
marks into it. And so people have been nitpicking the movie like that for a while, but you've kind of kept quiet on Twitter about it. And I'm wondering if now that the Blu-ray's coming, you can break your silence and answer some of these nitpicks that have been driving you crazy ever since the movie came out.
Well, actually, I'm glad you asked, and that's good to hear because I feel like I've been probably a little annoying in the opposite way, where I've been responding to everything on Twitter, but maybe that doesn't show up in the main feed, which is a good thing. Yeah, I don't know. I guess like broadly, the answer is I've been trying to kind of figure out through this whole process of the movie coming out, how much to engage on stuff like that. Um, because I have answers for all that stuff, obviously, but the idea of I don't know because I think about the movies that have kind of complexities like that I loved when I was growing up, and I'll think about how there'll be movies that I'll kind of be turning over in my head for years and years, and part of the pleasure is having unanswered questions where you think this makes no sense, and then 6 years later you're having a conversation with a friend, and he says, "Oh no, it's this," and you think, "Oh my God, yeah, that's right, it's this." Things like that are part of the pleasure of the movie. Those all go away the instant a director just says, "No, it's this," on Twitter. So at the same time, there's that weird kind of I don't know. I guess it's partially an ego thing where you spend a few years of your life making sure this whole thing is airtight and makes sense, and then you see a little thing pop up on Twitter where someone says, you didn't think about this," and you're like, I did, and the answer is this," and just keeping your fingers off the keyboard to reply instantly is really difficult. So I don't know. I'm trying to strike a good balance and figure out a way to balance it. I think I'm probably doing a pretty bad
And
job,
so you're not going to explain
but
why
I
they
don't
didn't
know.
drop them into.
Oh, well, this is actually a really good example. I mean, the other end of it is for me, I guess a big part of what people have been raising in terms of the movie are, oh, and we lost Katie.
She's
Oh,
back.
there she is. She's
Oh,
back. Yay!
hey, that was quick.
Uh, so it's interesting. A big part of what I feel like a lot of the questions have been about in terms of the movie are not so much actual plot hole questions, but stuff about the world that isn't explicitly explained with a line of dialogue in the movie, which are valid questions. For example, why aren't they just zapped into a volcano? The answer is that the time machine is not adjustable in any way. You can't choose where you send someone or how far back you send someone. It's tuned to a specific time period, and that slides forward with time, basically. So it's unadjustable. We don't say that in the movie. My perspective is, and this is something that this is just my perspective on it. It's obviously something that could be debatable. Is okay, I don't explicitly say the time machine is not adjustable in the film, but that's the only way the events in the film make any sense at all. So when you're watching the film, you can either think about it and say, why is it set up this way? And the version of it where it makes sense is that the time machine can't be adjusted, or you can say, they can adjust the time machine, and why don't they just send them back in a volcano? In which case, I agree with you. So I guess it's not explicitly saying it in the movie is a definite choice, and in some ways, it puts a little bit more responsibility in the hands of the viewer to kind of figure the world out, which is something I like in movies. It's also, though, something where I
Yeah.
can totally see the objections to, and I can totally see, if someone feels like that should have been explained or this should have been explained, and I'm not going to argue with that. But that was kind of the approach I took.
That seems fair enough. Let people think for
Yeah.
themselves. I wanted to, for my second question, I want to give you a chance to brag since you guys got shortlisted for the makeup Oscar. And given, we've all seen Joe's transition into a younger Bruce Willis, like we've had a chance to see it for ourselves, but I wonder what you're most proud of in terms of the transformation that he went under, either from his performance or from the makeup, which is being rightly honored on the shortlist.
Thanks. But I'm thrilled to brag about it because it has nothing to do with me. I love bragging about wonderful people that worked on it. So Kazuhiro Tsuji was our makeup designer, and Jamie Kellman was our makeup applicator. And those two guys, I'm so happy that they made the Oscar Bake Off because the work that they did on the film was they were up against I did a Tumblr post where I talked a little bit about this, but the specific challenges that they faced in terms of what we were asking for them, beyond the fact that Joe and Bruce look nothing alike. I mean, that was a design thing. And, our approach to that was kind of just to let go of the notion of making them actually look alike and just take a couple key features on Joe and slightly tweak those. But beyond that, just technically, we're dealing with a situation where, like, the Joe is on screen and fully featured in nearly every single scene. He's also a young man, and this is something I learned working with Kazu and Jamie. That's actually the most difficult thing, is to realistically adjust a young man's face and make it look not fantastic, but make it just look like a different looking human. Both design wise, but also technically, young skin has a translucency that older skin doesn't have. With older skin, it has wrinkles. The skin is a little less translucent. It's actually, there are more places to hide the seams and hide the work with older skin. So actually, it's one of the biggest challenges is realistically doing practical work on a young man. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I'm really, I was just amazed watching those guys work. They're like,
I think we all
they're
were.
like magicians. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all. I think I have to let somebody else do
Thank
it.
you,
So
Katie.
Thanks, Katie.
Bye.
Bye.
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna hop on and take over two questions, and then we're gonna let the audience, your fans, chime in and ask you some pretty cool stuff. The first one is probably gonna be very difficult for you to answer, and I understand if you don't want to. It's your birthday today. Are you wearing any pants?
Yeah, that would be a spoiler.
Okay, we don't want spoilers.
Not gonna spoil it. No, no.
Okay, so I'm gonna take that as a no. You're
That's
not
it.
wearing pants. All right, so Looper. Let's go ahead and talk about Looper. So the script, you wrote a high concept travel movie with a lot of intricate layers. How did you determine when the script was finally complete and ready to go into production?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think that you just you're never quite sure. And the truth is that the process of writing the script and kind of the work that you're doing when you're writing the script, I think, continues through production, and it definitely continues through editing. I think in a way, you're writing and rewriting up until you actually lock the picture and they drag you away from the keyboard.
Yeah.
So, sorry. So, yeah. So, and in terms of when you say, okay, this is a script you're going out with, and I think you work it over and over. Rewrite more than I never ever had. I want, because I was just coming off of The Brothers Bloom, which is a movie I'm really proud of and really love, but it was kind of this big, unwieldy, kind of messy by design traveling carnival of a movie. And with Looper, I really wanted to focus in and hone it down and get it as sharp and as focused as possible. So that meant in the writing, I really didn't want to let myself off the hook with anything. And I did more rewriting on Looper than I'd ever done. But you get to a point where you've just gone over it and over it, and it's just like, okay, it's almost arbitrary. It's almost like, okay, this I think is good enough. This is the one that we're going to at least start working production and into production with. Oh, I lost audio, Chase. I can't hear you.
Tell me
Hello?
when you can hear me. I'm gonna keep talking.
Oh, there you are.
Can
Now
you hear me?
Now
Testing.
I
Okay.
can now.
All right.
Thank God, we're back.
We're back. All right. I'm gonna ask you one more question, a real question, not a no pants question, and then we're gonna go to the fans. So fans of time travel movies are usually one step ahead of time travel movies. For Looper, you're one step ahead of the fans. How conscious of the paradoxes and complexities of time travel movies were you when writing Looper's dystopian world?
Well, I was really, really aware of them. I mean, that was kind of a big part of the writing process was, when you're working with time travel, a big part of it is setting your rules and setting your this kind of matrix of rules that you're going to live by and locking those in stone and kind of using those as the bedrock for your story. And in coming up with those rules, one of the things that was really liberating was looking at time travel movies that I loved, looking at the Terminator films, looking at 12 Monkeys, looking at, then back to like La Jetée, for example, or even Back to the Future, looking at those films and realizing it took a lot of pressure off to realize that time travel is not a science element of a story. Time travel is much more of like a fantasy element of a story. It's something where it's more like the magic in Harry Potter than it is like a true like even like space travel or something where you have to kind of adhere to some kind of um, scientific fact. With time travel, it's more that you build a framework in which time travel makes sense.
Yeah.
So once I kind of realized that was really liberating. That still means you have to build that framework. You have to set your rules and you have to stick to them. And I totally did with Looper. I spent a lot of time making sure that within the context of the story, the logic of the time travel was pretty airtight. So,
Fantastic.
But then also another big thing though was once I kind of got those rules down, I didn't want to think of it in terms of being one step ahead of the audience or fooling the audience or doing a twist for the audience or whatever. What I really wanted to do was set those rules in that foundation, but then use it for an emotional payoff as opposed to a gotcha clever payoff, I guess.
Yeah.
I wanted to almost consciously not go the direction of, oh, it was really this the whole time, or Joe was actually Sarah from a past life or something. I wanted to use that as kind of, okay, what's a real human emotional payoff that we can get to using this setup of a man literally versus himself and these two goals that they have and these things that he has or hasn't learned in the next 30 years. So I guess that was kind of the key of it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we're gonna turn it over to some of the fans. How are we setting this
Yay.
up?
I should say to everybody too, I don't have the chat window open because I realized very early that I can't concentrate on anything I'm saying if the chat window is open because I just keep reading the chats. So if you're asking me anything in the chat window,
No, that's
click
okay.
over to it now to say
I'm
hello.
gonna ask for you. I believe, correct? I'm gonna
Okay,
ask
great.
for him. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and ask these. This is from Christian Powell, and they want to know, when starting your career, did you always plan to be a director, and how did you get Brick from an idea to an actual production?
Yeah, I did always know that I wanted to write and direct, even like from a really young age. I was one of those, and I'm sure a lot of the people who are online with us now are the same way because video cameras have been like available. For me, I was kind of in growing up in the first period where video cameras were actually available in homes. So I remember when I was really little, my dad brought home the first literally like one of the first consumer video cameras, and you had to plug it into a VCR and carry the VCR around with you wherever you went, whenever you wanted to record. Like this big battery, the size of a car battery, plugged in the VCR, and you could run it for 10 minutes before it ran out of juice. And I would cart that thing around and make movies with it. And then in high school, in junior high, I made some Super 8 films. And then in high school, high 8 cameras were just starting to become compact enough to really do some stuff with. So I was kind of always making movies. And then with Brick, I wrote Brick right out of college. So I wrote Brick when I was 23. And I basically spent my 20s trying to get it made and failing miserably because I had no connections in Hollywood. I didn't have any social skills. So I was just kind of trying to get the script to anyone who would read it, trying to get money. And it took me until I didn't make the movie until I was turning 30. And I think the only thing I did right in that period of time is just not stop trying to get it made. And I really think that's kind of the one, if you listen to all the stories of people who have gotten their movies made, the only thing that's consistent throughout all their stories is persistence. And I think if you just don't go away until you get this thing made, however you can, I think you will get your film made.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to do another fan question as soon as it pops up on my screen. This is from Helena Joy Morris. This is actually a little bit, how do I get, I did click
more.
There we
click
go.
On more. Oh, you click on more.
I clicked more. I'm
helping you out.
I'm very proud of myself.
Well done.
What struck me most dynamically about Looper was the understated theme of how love and nurturing from a good woman or absence thereof can make or break the hero inside every man. For me, this took an intelligent, original, violent, action-packed film and gave it a huge heart. Can you please speak on what the mother-wife elements mean to this film?
Thank you, Melina. That's kind of, you keyed exactly into what for me was the heart of the whole thing. And for me though, it was also, I mean, what really got me excited was, I had the setup of Joe and older Joe, uh, and I've been asked the question before, like why didn't you just stick with Joe versus older Joe? Why did you bring Sarah and Sid into the mix? Like why didn't we just have like Joe, older Joe and Joe kind of facing off or teaming up or chasing each other through the whole thing? And my response to that is always, and you kind of get to it in your question. I feel like this was the best way to illustrate Joe versus old Joe. Because Joe versus old Joe to me is not about which one of them is going to win in a gun battle or which one of them is going to outchase the other or which one of them is going to team up with which one. We could have done that for another hour and I don't know, we could have done that. We could have made that movie. For me, the best way to illustrate what's different about these two guys, what Joe has learned over the next 30 years, or what more to the point, what he hasn't learned over the next 30 years, and show kind of actually these two people coming against each other, is to present them both with the same problem. And that problem is embodied in Sid and Sarah. And it's a problem that gets back to, in Joe's mind or in his heart, I guess, kind of what started his whole journey, this lack of a mother. So it's kind of presenting them both with this moral dilemma and seeing the very different way that they both approach that moral dilemma. That for me is actually the most economic way of getting to the heart of Joe versus older Joe. And then it also allowed for the influx of this character of Sarah and the character of Sid, and addressing these very these very very female-based themes in a what starts as an incredibly male-centric world, very intentionally. And that to me just seemed really exciting. But thank you. I'm really glad that you keyed into that.
Absolutely.
That you like that.
All right. Now we're going to bring on another journalist from the film stage. Mr. Nick Newman's going to ask you a question.
Nick Newman. Hey, Nick.
Yes. Hello,
How are
Ryan.
you?
How are you?
I am wonderful.
Good.
Give me
All
a
right.
real hard
May I
ball.
proceed?
Give me something just right between the eyes.
Don't ask him about his pants.
All right.
Spoiler.
No?
Spoiler.
Oh, all right.
Creepy.
I'll try. Well, I mean, now that you've presented the option, I don't even know what to do. So anyway, Mr. Johnson, I feel like you seem to have more of an online social media presence than any other working, successful filmmaker that I can think of. You're talking with film writers on Twitter, you're making podcast appearances, and you have all these, you're cropping up everywhere, it seems like. And I have to ask if it's difficult to strike a good balance when it comes to maintaining these online acquaintances with film critics and then at the same time reading reviews of your work.
That's a really good question. It's something that I guess the reason that I feel like I have that kind of presence online, I wouldn't even, I don't know, to me it doesn't feel like wouldn't even think of it as maintaining a presence online to me because I've been doing it since before I was like making movies that anyone was seeing. I've kind of just always been online. It's actually just something I enjoy doing, and I feel like whether I was making movies or not, I'd be on Twitter, being part of that conversation. It's something I just like. So it's strange. I don't really, I guess that's part of the reason that I do it a lot is just because I enjoy doing it. In terms of interacting with film writers, I mean, it's something that, you kind of have to feel your way. Again, it's something where I kind of got to know a lot of people before I was actually like able to make movies that were getting out there on a big scale. So it's something I've had to kind of figure out. The big thing though is I mean, the truth is, the film writers that I interact with on Twitter or that I, am friends with, I'd rather read a bad review from one of them, than a good review that's just kind of a gloss or something. Without exception, the people that I'm interacting with are people whose writing I respect and love. And I know if they have criticisms, they're going to be criticisms that are not just glib dismissals, but they're going to be really thoughtful takes on the film. And I have friends who have given very negative reviews to my films, and it's not like you take it personally or anything like that. Much to the contrary, that means that they cared enough about the film to really dig into it and to tell me honestly what they thought, which is their job. So I guess that's a separate issue from whether us knowing each other colors their, how they receive the film, and that's something that I guess is more, that's kind of like more of a question for them. And if someone didn't want to interact with me because they felt like that would affect it, then that's something I would totally understand. But I don't know. It's also and because the conversation is happening on Twitter and because it's now so immediate and there's so much of that interaction, there is an element to it where it's kind of a brave new world that we're all kind of figuring out as we go along. But anyway, I guess my short answer is just that I would hope that the film writers I know, I would hope that none of them would hold back. I know the ones that I know well wouldn't at all.
All right. And a bad review from Rex Reed means more than anything I know.
Oh my God, I
So.
was so bummed we didn't get a Rex Reed review this time. I was so
Oh, really?
disappointed. No, he didn't review it. I feel like the last 4 years of my life have been wasted.
All right. Thanks, Nick, for your time, Mr.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Nick.
I'm gonna ask another question, and then I'm gonna turn it over to some more of your fans that are dying to ask you questions. One
Before
thing.
you do, watch this. I'm gonna watch this. This is for you, Chase. Watch
You're
this.
doing something. Oh,
Ooh. Whoa. That's right.
I'm gonna do that too.
Hold on.
Hang on. I'm gonna
Ooh.
do that.
Are you
I'm gonna
okay?
do that too. Hang on.
Oh my God, this is getting filthy.
So weird.
I apologize to everybody watching. This is not going to be pretty.
This is just for you, Ryan.
You're like, oh my God. What is the tat? Look at the ink. Did you guys all catch the glimpse of that? What do you got right there? What's on there? Is that mom?
What's that?
What's the tattoo right there? What's the tattoo? Show us the ink. What do
That
you got?
that's my mom tattoo.
Mom.
It's got 35 millimeters surrounding it. So
Nice.
she took me to see Terminator 2 in the second grade, and that's why I'm sitting here right now. So
That's a
I
beautiful
think she's
thing.
actually watching. So thanks, Mom. All right.
Hi, Mom.
So one thing I want to do is I applaud you for shooting the film on 35 millimeter, especially since we're in the age where digital is all the rage in Hollywood. With that said, where do you see the medium of film heading?
Well, I mean, sadly, it's going away. I mean, it's just a fact that because of a lot of factors, it's just becoming tougher and tougher to shoot on film, and it's a technology that is, I think, unfortunately, just becoming more and more difficult to access. And I do think it's unfortunate because I shoot film not out of a nostalgia for film or not out of some notion of the old days or the way movies were or something. I shoot film because it's the highest quality medium you can shoot on right now.
Absolutely.
Digital just can't touch it. And I mean, there's some, and I should preface all this by saying that I would never, begrudge anyone their choice of what to shoot on. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's story that carries the day. The medium is, at the end of the day, whether you shoot something on high eight or 35, if it's telling a great story that hooks you in, that's all that matters. At the same time, just technically, film to me is just so much higher quality, even than the best digital stuff that I still see today.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I shoot it. I think that digital is going to get there. Digital is going to keep improving. It's going to keep getting better, and I'm happy for that because I know eventually I'll have to shoot it. But at the moment, nothing looks as good as film.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. All right, well let's turn this over to some fan questions.
Woohoo!
I'm gonna wait for one to pop up. Yeah. This one's gonna actually be video, so you're gonna have a gentleman or a gentlewoman asking you a question.
Yay!
Hello, sir. You're on the air.
Hi, Ryan.
Hey there.
Thank you. Hi.
Hey.
I just recently saw the movie and immediately thought about the idea that, because as we know, whenever a movie is successful, they try to continue the franchise,
Mm,
turn it into a franchise. When you originally wrote the story 7 years ago, I believe, I don't think you expected it to be this big, but those of us that have seen the movie know that the end of the movie actually creates a paradox.
mm.
If the studios decide to go with a sequel, would you be interested in studying that paradox
Mm.
or going with new characters?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Thank you, first of all. I'm glad that you like the movie. I was never really thinking, I'm still not even thinking in terms of sequels or a franchise or whatever. I was just thinking in terms of this story. And so every choice that was made in the script was including the building of the world, how the world works, including all the different elements of it. It was all just to one end, which was making the last 30 seconds of this movie land as hard as they possibly could. And to me, that's the purpose of it. That's it. So I don't know. My mind doesn't really work in terms of ongoing franchises or world building for sequels or anything like that. I just kind of did all of the stuff in this movie to make it as fun and interesting and touching a story to watch as possible. So I guess I'm not thinking of sequels or anything like that. At the same time, it's really cool to me and really flattering that fans are and people who see the movie I feel like it's rich enough to come up with new stuff. There have even been a couple of really cool shorts that have come up online that I've had nothing to do with that are other things that are kind of made with loopers in them and stuff. And I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool. But for me, I'm just interested in doing something new now.
I asked because you already talked about Terminator being an influence, and we all know that eventually, when the creator uh, lets go of the idea or the movie, that usually turns bad.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked, because if the studios want to make a sequel, I
Yeah,
think it would be best if the creator had some input.
I agree.
Oh,
I'm on your team.
All right.
I agree. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you, Mr. Dragu. I hope I said your name right.
Thanks, man.
If you're on
Thank you.
Twitter right now, tweeting quotes or anything, make sure to hashtag Looper and/or hashtag Happy Birthday Ryan Johnson. Let's see. Let's take another fan question. We're gonna do video or written. All right. This next one is gonna be video. So without further ado, here we go. Alex. Waiting on Alex to pop up. Hi, Alex. Goodbye, Alex.
Oh,
Where'd it go?
so close.
Technology, don't you love it?
We're shooting this on film, right? This is
Yes.
35?
Yes, this is actually
Good.
35.
I will stand
You,
for nothing less.
okay, now we brought on Mike. Sorry, Alex, if we still love you and we'll try to get to you. Now it's Mike Garland. Go ahead, shoot away, sir.
Hey, Mike.
Hey Ryan, happy birthday.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Uh, I have a couple questions if you don't mind. My first one was I really like the weapon technology from Looper. It's really cool that you incorporated like the blunderbuss and kind of those old school weapons. I was just wondering like what was the inspiration behind that and what's the process for deciding like the style and what functions and limitations each one had. And then I also, if you have time, had a question about the TK portion because it's kind of cool how you throw it in there, and there's really not many films that deal with that. I was just wondering again, what was the inspiration behind that, and why you decided to make that play such a major role in the film as well.
Sure. Well, it's cool. The answer to both questions is kind of the same. Like with the guns, it was entirely just it doesn't start from a design point. It just starts from a story point. So I knew that I wanted to separate these two classes of criminals. You have the loopers and you have the gatmen. And I knew I wanted to show really quickly and really obviously that the loopers were kind of fuck ups and the gatmen were the actual skilled criminals. And so that led to the design of the guns, with the blunderbuss being the kind of the crudest weapon we could possibly design. And some of the early designs we came up with actually looked too good. And I just kept pulling it way back until finally I had the idea of why don't we just make it the gun equivalent of of a packing tube, just the most basic, tube of metal you can possibly have with a trigger on the end of it. And even then,
Yeah.
we like made the handle look like it was just something like a broom handle or something that was stuck on there. So the design just comes from communicating as clearly as possible what its function is in the story. And then the Gatman, the similar thing. We went with this coolest looking, sleekest, biggest revolver possible.
Yeah.
And then, and that I should say also, James Croning was the name of our props guy, and he designed the guns, and he just did a incredible job. He actually just gave me. I've been
Yeah.
waiting to get. He gave me the original blunderbuss. I've got it. I'll grab it and show it to you guys in a second. But it's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. He just like gave me like a case with all the stuff in it. I was like, yeah. But then the second question, oh, the TK stuff, and that's exactly the same
Yeah.
thing. I mean, in terms of the look of it, I mean, I was excited about it because I'm a big Katsuhiro Otomo fan, and so the idea of doing, Akira and Domu style visuals is something that's been lodged in my brain since I was younger. At the same time, the reason it's in there is I wanted, once the character of Sid came into the story, I wanted there to be something beyond a threat that Sid posed beyond just a potential threat in the future. So I was faced with this thing where, okay, this kid may grow up to be, may grow up to be Darth Vader in the future. He may grow up to be Hitler, but that's very theoretical. And if the notion is
Yeah.
just that he's very smart and uh-oh, is he going to grow up to be bad? That's kind of weak. And so I wanted a very real and present and visually striking immediate illustration of how he could be bad in the future. And that led to the idea of this superpower that he has, this TK thing. And then it was
Yeah.
actually kind of a problem integrating that into the script. I had to do a lot of work to figure out how to plant it early on without it feeling like too much because you're already,
Yeah.
dealing with the time travel shit and everything. So, but it all comes
Yeah,
together.
it's good.
Cool, man.
All right.
It's good because you don't really notice it at first. Thank you
Thanks
very
so
much.
much,
Good.
Mike.
Nice slip it in there. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right. So now we're going to bring on another journalist to give you another hard-hitting question. Please forgive me for mispronouncing your last name. Stephen Avidabile. Vidable. Avidable.
How do you do?
Third time's a charm.
Navigable.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Hey,
Cool.
Steven.
Thank you very much for doing this, by the way.
No, man.
So hopefully I'm kind of not like repeating what other people said because I noticed some people had some similar questions, but I was wondering like, you created this whole universe with all the loopers and also with all the TKs in it and everything. And I was kind of wondering which one came first, which like were you thinking of the loopers first or the TKs first, and how soon afterwards did one, come after the other in like the writing process and all that?
Well, the Loopers was from the very start, and it's funny, just today I put online, if you go to the Looper Tumblr, I put online this like 4-page short prose document that I wrote 10 years ago, which is kind of the thing that the eventual script was written out of. And it's an interesting doc. It's funny. I just like dug it out and reread it recently. It's an interesting because it has kind of the fundamentals of the movie in it, but at the same time, it doesn't have any of the TK stuff in it. So the looper, and the time machine, and that was kind of like the basis of it. The TK stuff, which I just talked about a little bit, was that came out of the need to give Sid a little extra juice. So that was something that was developed later on, and then there was actually a challenge. Basically, it was the way I kind of approached it, integrating the TK stuff was, if you think about kind of two wedges that you slide together. At the beginning of the movie, the time travel stuff is very, very heavy, and then by the end of the film, that's kind of tailed out, and you kind of know the time travel stuff kind of goes away by the end. And then with the TK stuff, I wanted to just glimpse the TK stuff at the beginning, start that out very thin, and then at the end, that when the time travel stuff is ebbing away, that's when the TK explanation, having to wrap your head around that, kind of expands and takes over. So it was just a matter of trying to finesse it and get it in there as best as possible.
Yeah, that's what I like that a lot because I honestly didn't expect it at all. I thought it was one of those things like, hey, if you thought we were going to talk about people who can do telekinesis, it's a really small thing, and then you just, kind of wash over it. So
Yeah.
I really liked that part of it.
Oh, great. Cool.
Cool.
Nice.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot,
Yo,
Stephen.
thanks, Steven.
We're going to bring on another journalist. This one's from Funimation.com, and I can pronounce his name, Justin Rojas.
Hello.
Hey, Justin.
Yes.
Take it
Hey,
away,
hey.
Justin.
Hello.
I actually represent. There we go. Cool.
We're good.
We talked about this briefly. You mentioned you have a lot of inspiration from like Katsuhiro Otomo. We're actually North America's largest distributor of anime, and we're really impressed by your work.
Thanks, man.
And so I was wondering, I mean, in addition to, of course, Akira, and I've heard a lot about Cowboy Bebop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what other kind of anime influences do you really have that has impacted Looper and Brick and all the other stuff?
Well, the big the big influence on Looper, actually even more so than Akira, is Domu, is the one that Otomo did before Akira, which I don't think there used to be a beautiful Dark Horse version of it that I don't think is, I think it's out of print. I don't think it's available now anymore. But that even more, there's kind of a lot of the stuff that is in Akira is in Domu in a kind of an embryonic form, but it's even more concentrated with the idea of the kind of the base uncontrollable kind of id of a child given this horrendous power, and so that was actually even more of an influence than Akira. And that's, I mean, that's probably the biggest anime influence on Looper specifically. It's funny, I went through kind of like a concentrated phase where I was really into anime, and I actually am remiss, I haven't seen a lot of very recent stuff. So most of the stuff I know is kind of from
Well,
around.
we should fix that, by
We
the way.
should hook a brother up. But
We'll
yeah.
talk offline.
Okay, all right. Get in touch with me. But and so most of the stuff that I would mention would be the classics, Ghost in the Shell. I really love the anime version of Metropolis. I think is absolutely stunning
Yeah.
and beautiful. And of course, I'm a big Miyazaki fan, but I'm assuming that goes without saying. But yeah, you gotta give
Who
me some
isn't?
suggestions of yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, sounds cool. We look forward to more of your work.
Awesome, man. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Great, thanks, man.
All right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
we're gonna turn it over to two
Oh, I
fans.
should have mentioned Lone Wolf and Cub. That actually, the manga of Lone Wolf and Cub. He's gone. Well, we'll talk offline. But anyway,
You
but
can tweet him. I'm
sorry.
sure he'll be delighted to talk. Oh, you should tell everyone your new Twitter handle. It changed.
It changed. I had this weird Twitter handle that was my USC email address was RC Johnso, and my friend, my cinematographer Steve Yedlin, for some reason thought that was hilarious, so I'd always stuck with that, and that was my Twitter handle. But it was weird, and you couldn't really remember it. And there was this poor guy who's named RC Johnson who kept getting tweets from me intended for me, and so today I changed it to Ryan Johnson. So it's now just my full name, Ryan Johnson.
It's great. It's great for marketing.
And that's it.
So perfect. All right.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to ask
Good.
you a question from Jake Ballard. And his question is, what is your approach for directing actors?
Violence, just give them a good whop at the beginning of the day, and that'll no. Well, it's no. This was actually because I mentioned before that and I don't know if you grow up making movies in high school, chances are you've had a lot of, like me, you've had a lot of experience with the technical end of things, but not a lot of experience with working with what you think of as like as real actors. So for me, I knew how to storyboard a scene. I knew my way with. I knew what I wanted with the camera. I knew all that. I knew all that good stuff to some degree at least. But I had never worked with professional actors going into Brick, and so I was terrified. And the thing that it's now my favorite part of the whole process. And the thing that was really nice to learn was I think I had it in my head that there was some mystique about it and that there was some secret language you had to learn with actors and some code you had to crack. And the truth is, especially with really good actors, there isn't. The only real code is uh, they have to trust you. They have to know that you know the story that you're telling and that you're confident when you show up on set that even if you don't have to know what like the secret code to tell them to do what they have to do, but you have to know what you want the end effect to be, and you have to be able to communicate that to them clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And that and giving them what they need. That's the other big element of it, I think. And I'm obviously, look, I'm still really starting out at this. I'm still learning, and every actor you work with, you learn so much from. But that is the other big thing I think is just listening. More so than what you tell them, it's listening to them and figuring out what their needs are when they're on set, what you can do to make them the most comfortable, to give them whatever information they need, to give them the environment they need to do their best work in. It's kind of, as much as anything, it's being a facilitator for them and giving them what they need to give you their best.
Yeah. Great. All right, we have a request to get a few questions from the females. If we can pull up a female, a young lady wants to ask you a question. Let's see if we can get one. Do you have your camera on you, your iPhone?
I have my iPhone camera. Why?
Let's take a picture of each other while they're trying to find someone. Can you do it?
All right, if you insist.
I
You
insist.
ready?
Ready?
One,
1, 2,
two,
3.
three. Oh, look at
I'll
that.
tweet it to you.
Oh wait, you want to see something cool? Where did I put that thing? My friend Noah gave me this crazy camera for my birthday.
Kid Blue.
Where did I set it down? Kid Blue. Yeah, Noah, he plays Kid Blue in the movie.
Kid Blue's
While you're finding. Oh wait, here we go. Patrice.
All right. Okay, we found someone. All right. Big question from
Patrice is not.
from
Yeah.
Patrice Welch. How is it like working with Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Joe has been like a really good friend of mine since we made Brick together. So it's a little unique just because we're, you know, as well as like just figuring out that we really enjoy working together, we're also really, really tight. And so, but the thing is that doesn't, you know, that doesn't mean that on set it's like we're hanging out in each other's living rooms or something. It's not like they're socializing. What that means is you kind of don't have to socialize because you know you're going to hang out later. You don't have to spend time and energy kind of forming a bond like that. You've already got it. So it actually means you can be more focused on set and you can be more uh, you know, you can be more to the point and more focused and put all the energy where it really belongs when you're on set, which is getting the information out there so that you both know what you're doing.
Fantastic.
He's cool, I guess, is the short answer.
That guy's going
Cool.
places.
He's all right.
A little boy wonder. All right. Well, we're gearing up for another question. This is from Julia. And Julia wants to know, any allusions to Brick done on purpose? Which screenplay was easier to write and why?
There is actually, I don't know if you guys know the brick symbol, the thing that's like, what is it? It's like that thing. I don't know if you guys remember that thing from Brick. That's actually scrawled on a wall in Looper, and I wonder if anybody will catch it when the DVD comes out. But if you look there, we did actually stash that someplace. We did in Bloom, and then we also did in this one. So there's a brick symbol somewhere in Looper. I think that's the extent of it, besides casting Joe and Noah. And I feel like Looper was. I don't know. Brick was so long ago that I wrote it, but I feel like Looper was tougher to write. But that's just because I feel like it's getting harder and harder writing. I don't know, maybe because I'm just getting older and dumber. But or it feels like every one is a little bit more difficult.
All right. That was your answer. And so we're gonna
That's it.
move on to someone else. This is gonna be a video, if I believe, and it's a young lady named Leslie Martinez. She's very excited, and Leslie, take it away.
Hey, Leslie. Hey, Leslie.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hi. I saw your video. I saw Looper when it came out. It was
Thank
great.
you.
And I'm currently going to school for business for marketing, and I decided that's not what I want to do. It's too structured. I don't like business. I want to go into the entertainment industry, and I was thinking that I wanted to go into production. So I was wondering if you just had any advice for going in that field and all of that.
Yeah, do you kind of know what you want to do in production, or you just know that you want to work in film?
I just know I want to work in film. I've always loved films, and I like analyzing them. I like watching them. I like being around them, and I love everything about them.
I would say just try, and this, I would say just get any job you can working in or around the industry. That sounds like really dumb, broad advice, but the truth is that most people I know who work in the industry, who are, doing very well in a specific part of it, got there sort of just by going, getting a job as a PA on the film set or working at a PR firm that works with movies as an intern first or something, and then you kind of start very broadly at the bottom, and then you can see what looks good to you, and you'll kind of find yourself going naturally towards one of those places. But yeah, I would say, as opposed to thinking that you have to kind of figure out, okay, I'm going to be this and go for it like a laser. Just show up and see what you like, I guess. And And in terms of getting getting like an entry level job, that's just kind of like whatever connections you have, even if they're vague ones, just work them and see what you can do. But it's typically not that tough to just get an entry level. People always want someone who's kind of eager and smart and wants to get in there and learn.
All right.
I don't know if
That's great. Well, I hope to work with you one day. I mean, that'd be an honor.
awesome.
So
Cool.
I'll get there.
Thanks, Leslie, for your time.
Thanks so much, Leslie. Good luck.
All right, Ryan, I have actually a question for you. Right now we're at 50 minutes. Do you have a problem extending it 15 to 30 more minutes longer?
Keep going on. Come on. I've still got all this whiskey left. We got to get through all of this by the end, so we got plenty of time.
All right,
Come
I
on.
got a whole bunch of water so we can take shots together. So I'm gonna ask a couple of questions from some journalists. They're camera shy. So here we go. This next one is from Ren Brown on chud.com. Do you know what chud means?
Ren, I know chud. Cinematic Happenings Under Development is the site, and the movie was, oh, what the hell did they stand for in the movies? Do you remember?
I
in the
don't.
film?
Like in the
It's
80s.
horrible that I know what the site letters stand for, and I don't know what the actual film stands for. I don't know.
That's why you're the boss, man.
Somebody will know.
All right. Ren
Sorry.
Brown from chud.com wants to know, could you see yourself expanding on or administrating others to expand the Looperverse and additional material like novels, comics, video games, animations, etc.? And what might you like to see explored in such an extended universe?
I don't know. That sounds like a lot of work. That sound no, I don't know. And we talked a little bit earlier about sequels and stuff. I mean, honestly, I just I don't really I was never really thinking of Looper as something that would like go beyond this story. So and I feel like like I said, I mean, kind of the ideal thing for me is almost just to let it be out there and let you know, if there are fans who want to make stuff, I think that's really really cool in terms of professionally developing anything along those lines. I don't know. I honestly haven't really thought about it.
Yeah, that's a lot
So
to soak in. A whole lot of like
well, it's
franchises.
odd. It's odd. I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's not like it's a bad idea. I think it's cool, and it again, it's really flattering that people would think the world could sustain more stories. I think that's really really cool. But it's just not something that I've really wrapped my head around. And again, because all the elements from the world for me were all focused down to this one point of making this one story as effective as possible. It's just not something I've given a lot of thought to.
Yeah, very cool. All right, this next question comes from James Wallace from iHeart CinemaNet. You actually remember James from Gordon and the Well. He was one of the editors there. He anyway.
Very nice talk with him and awesome.
Yeah, you sure did. So his question is, and I believe you've answered this before, but I think it's great for the audience to know firsthand. What do you think of the theories that Kid Blue and Abe were the same person, and what was a theory that someone came up with that you had never considered while writing the film?
Actually, it's funny that the Abe Kid Blue thing was something that I had never thought of. That sounds really really weird, but that kind of took me by surprise. And I think it's awesome. I think it's really cool that people are watching the movie and veering off into those different directions. But that's a good example of something where it just wasn't something I was really thinking of, and then when it popped up, I was like, oh wow, I can see where you got there.
Yeah. See, when I watched
How
it,
you got to that place.
when I watched it, I didn't think he was the same person just because of Kid Blue's foot, obviously. But
Yeah,
I kind of my
that's a good
theory
point.
was that he may have been like a relative, and that's why Abe was so
Although
comforting to him.
you never really see Jeff Daniels' character walking though. You never really see Abe being that mobile.
There you
But the
go.
bigger thing is would Abe have had Kid Blue's hand smashed if he knew that he was going to then, have to go through life with a smashed hand? I don't know.
Very
And
true.
there's a scene actually in the deleted scenes on the DVD where he even goes farther, and like you'll see that it kind of negates the theory even further.
Fantastic. All right, we're gonna do one more journal question, and then we're gonna hand it over to the fans for a little bit, and then I'm gonna finish off with one more big question for you. This one comes from Perry Nemiroff from Shakya.com, and Perry wants to know: a movie changes through each stage of the process: script, production, editing. Can you give us a sense of what Looper was during each stage, and how certain themes and/or plot points may have changed?
Yeah, it's interesting because, and we talked a little before about kind of it being one long process of storytelling. That's kind of another artifact of growing up making movies, because when you're making a movie on a weekend with your friends, you're not doing a writing process, production process, editing process. You're just making a movie. And to some degree, it's nice to kind of hold on to that conception of it, to hold on to the idea that you're just telling a story and this is all part of it. But it does evolve in very specific ways in all three parts of it. I actually posted again pretty recently the original shooting script, which is what we actually. It's a lot of times when shooting scripts come out, they're kind of just transcriptions of the finished film. This is actually the script that we went to the actors with and that we went into production with, and it's actually quite different from the finished film in a lot of ways. Not, I guess, not substantially. It really is the same movie, but there's a lot of details. All the scenes like we reshuffled a lot of the scenes in the first act for pacing purposes. We cut a lot of stuff out, which is so you can compare the scripts to kind of the finished film and see. And a lot of that, it was interesting for me going through the process. You learn that a lot of the stuff you end up lifting out is it's pleasantly surprising once you put a movie in front of an audience to see what information they don't need. And so a lot of the stuff that was in the script was because there was a sequence of events where it was A, B, C, and then you get it on the screen and you realize you don't need B, and you can just lift that out, and the audience will make the leap from A to C,
Yeah.
just narratively. A lot of it is that. But on the DVD, there's a lot. There's like 45 minutes of deleted scenes on the DVD. There's like 22 deleted scenes. And that's an interesting, I think watching them, you'll immediately see with each of them why we cut them out. Even though a lot of them, it's some of my favorite stuff that we shot actually.
Fantastic.
But yeah, but you can see why they were cut out. And so that'll give you kind of probably a better notion than I could trying to explain it, how it changed during production and post.
Yeah, that's actually what I want to dive into right before we end this, is talk about this guy right here.
Oh my God, you have a copy? I haven't even seen it yet.
Yeah, it's right here.
How is it?
It's colorful, it's pretty.
I don't have that. Is it good? How's the movie?
It's great. I think this guy's going places, the director. I think he's going places.
How are the animated menus? I haven't seen them yet, and those always make me nervous.
Oh, I haven't looked yet.
Obnoxious?
It's still packaged. So
okay. You haven't broke the seal.
I haven't
Good.
broke
It's
the
a
seal.
collector's item. Don't break that seal.
I won't. But I'll tweet you as soon as I watch it.
Okay.
All right. Let's turn this over to a couple of more fans. Ask you some fun questions, and then we'll get to the Blu-ray. This is Kate Morris has a question for you.
Hey.
Hey, Kate.
So I really have to compliment Looper on your costuming. It was spectacular and futuristic without being heavy-handed and technology, which is really cool.
Thanks.
But I have to ask, who had your favorite get-up in the movie? Who had your favorite outfit? What did you want to wear?
That's a really good question. Thank you. I'm glad to. Also, I should mention Sharon Davis was our costume designer, and she also just did Django Unchained. So when you see the costumes in that, that's Sharon, and she is awesome. She is so cool. God, let me think. Who had my? because with Brothers Bloom, it's easy. Like Bang Bang had the coolest costumes in Brothers Bloom, but with Looper, I actually haven't thought about this. You know who I really liked? I really liked Jeff Daniels' outfits because that's kind of the only one that's kind of specifically designed, and the whole notion with him was he never leaves his man cave, and so it was just going for comfort. And I remember when Jeff put on his costume for the first time, he was like, I could live in this thing. I could just take a old man nap and just live in this for the rest of my life. So I think that's my favorite out of all of them. Thank you though. I'm glad you did the costumes.
No problem. They
Thank
were
you,
great.
Kate. All right, so we are going to go to the next fan. Is this going to be video or written? This is going to be written. I'm going to read it for you. I'm guessing it's
Cool.
either him, Higa, or Jim Higa. I'm really sorry I butchered your name, but Ryan's about to answer your question. How was Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt chosen to be cast as Joe?
Well, I wrote the script for Joe. I had been friends with him since we made Brick, and so while I was writing it, I had him in mind for that younger part. But I didn't know who was going to play the older part. And once we got around to casting, that was obviously the first thing that we had to decide. So, they give you like a list of here are, the big actors who are in this age range who could cast in this part, who could help you, who you could get the movie financed with these guys. And you look at the list, and Bruce's name just like popped off of it for me. I was like, oh my God, Bruce Willis, but for a couple of reasons. First, because I think he's a tremendous actor, and if you if you watch, for example, like 12 Monkeys, when he gets into a performance, he's not afraid to go to such a vulnerable place with it, and that combined with his persona as an action star, I think it leads to some just incredibly touching and beautiful performances. But also, specifically for this movie, I thought it'd be really interesting just because he does have that action star persona, and a big part of your relationship as an audience to old Joe is he shows up in the movie as the action star, as here's the bad guy, we're going to track them down and solve the problem by killing them. And that's what the action star does in 95% of Hollywood action movies. And then the whole notion behind this was then to follow that through some very dicey moral waters and make you kind of turn on that notion. And so having Bruce in that part, aside from him being a tremendous actor, I thought would be really interesting.
All right, fantastic. Moving along, next question. Surprise, surprise. It's from Mark Vibert. I know that guy. Nice fella. All right.
Hey, Mark.
Here's your question. What does Ryan, that is you're Ryan, what does Ryan think of 48 frames per second? Would he ever consider shooting in the HFR?
High frame rate. I got to see The Hobbit, and I got to see it in 48, and I posted on Twitter. I'd highly suggest that if you see this movie, you see it in 48 because it's fascinating. I think that I don't think it's. I think it's kind of like, and I'm sure if you've been reading online, you've read all sorts of things about it. You've read that it looks like a soap opera. You've read that and people like it, say it makes the 3D smoother, and all that stuff along the whole spectrum is absolutely true. It does look like a soap opera, and it does make the 3D slightly less shitty, and it does have this weird effect on you. So, I don't know. To me, I didn't like it. I don't think it's good. I think it is actually, at the end of the day, more distancing for me personally than it is. It creates more distance than I think its intent is to kind of create less distance and make you feel like you're watching reality. It kind of had the opposite effect for me. But at the same time, I think it's awesome that he did it, and I think it's not just terrible, it's also really interesting. And there are moments where, for whatever reason, the things on screen completely line up with it and it works, and it does look like nothing you've ever seen before. So I think the thing I tweeted was that it's the same way that if I had a time machine, I would tell somebody in the 60s to absolutely try and see something in, in Sense-O-Vision or whatever it was, in Sensorama. I would absolutely encourage you to go and see it in 48, because it's not something you can dismiss. It is something that is genuinely interesting.
All right.
And no, I don't think I mean, at least where the technology is now, it's not something I see and think I'd wanna shoot in that. But who the hell knows?
All right. Well, now we're doing video, another surprise video, and the contestant is
Yay!
Mr. Thomas. Thomas, take it away.
Hey, Thomas.
Yeah, Double T in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
All right.
Quick question for Ryan. For the Looper blunderbuss gun, how does it reload? Because basically all we need to know is that it has an effective range of about 15 foot or so.
Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, we see more than one shot
Yeah.
being fired. So
we never get into the mechanism of it. It's a really good question. I mean, the notion is it does have several cartridges that can be stored in it, and I think James and I came up at some point with how many cartridges are stored in it. The truth is, we could, if I was pressed to, I could sit down and write up a diagram of exactly how it works, but we didn't really go into it at all in the film. James came up with these really cool. Actually, hold on. If you can hold on 1 second, I have like a cartridge for the gun. If you wanna
go for it,
hold
buddy.
On, Chase. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Okay.
Take
hold
your
on,
time.
All right, I'll be right back.
Hi, Thomas. Hi,
hey,
Thomas.
hello. And hey, how do I sound?
You sound.
I know it's not
You know,
beautiful.
you sound beautiful. He's going to get you a surprise. Hang tight.
Is it myself 30 years in the future set
Maybe.
back?
Did you hear stuff just like crashing off screen as I put? Okay, so this is the blunderbuss, and this actual model that he gave me doesn't do it, but in the film we had one of them that was hinged here, so it cracks open here, and that's where the shells go in. This is the shell that he designed for it, and the notion is you can see kind of like the pellets as if it's a shotgun shell. But other than that, it kind of looks like a big bullet. The thing is, we didn't really feature this in the film because of exactly the issue that you're talking about. Where if you look at this thing, it's really cool looking, but logistically, it would be hard for more than one of these to fit into the gun. So I decided to kind of keep that off screen and just leave it ambiguous and figure there was some kind of loading mechanism that it just feels cool to have this in your hand also. You might just start walking around with this during the day. Yeah. Anyway.
So
thanks,
basically, my theory was that the chamber actually is a miniature time travel device, and there's some ammunition supply that is sent back through the time stream.
I like it. I like it.
Which,
So there's some poor guy in 2072 who's just feeding cartridges into this slot all day long. I like that idea, actually. It's
All
cool,
right.
man.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. Thanks, man.
All right, Ryan. I wanted to check in with you. We are 7 minutes over what we were normally gonna do. Are you good? You want a few more? Are you?
Okay, let me check.
Is it your birthday, man?
Let me check real quick. My girlfriend is cooking dinner. Let me check.
Yeah, it's your birthday. You gotta go celebrate
with the meal. Hey, Karina. We have plenty of time.
Plenty of time.
I'm cool. Yeah, Chase, I'm cool. If we got more questions, I'm cool.
Cool. I'm gonna ask all of our viewers a big favor. If we could kind of avoid the gun questions because of in light of what happened.
Oh, did everyone start asking about the? Oh, I see.
Yeah, in light of what happened recently. So yeah, if we could stay away from those, and we can talk about Ryan's beard or whatever. So, all right. So I'm gonna ask this next question, and while you're answering, I'm gonna run to the restroom. And that question is from Mr. Gambino. What are your favorite movies of the year? So take your time, because I need to run to the restroom.
I'm going to do this really quick, so go quick. Pee quickly. My favorite movies of the year, my favorite was probably The Master. I really, really loved The Master. But then Holy Motors was incredible and so entertaining and just something that you haven't seen on screen before. And Moonrise Kingdom, I really loved. Cabin in the Woods, I thought was awesome, and it was a movie where I sat down and had no idea what I was getting into, and by the end of it, it was just kind of that feeling of elation you get when you realize where a movie is going. You're like, oh my God, they're going there. Chronicle, I thought was awesome. What else? The Gray, Joe Carnahan's movie, The Gray. I don't know if you guys got to see it. It was again one of those movies where from the trailer and from everything I had heard about it, I just was expecting a totally different kind of movie, and it's actually a straight up really intense and I think really effective kind of Jack London style man versus nature type thing. So, but there was a lot of movies I really liked this year. Chase is gone. Let's talk about him. Here, I'm clicking over to the chat window to say hello. Hello. While Chase is gone, it's just us. It's just us. Hello. I can't. Oh my God! Now all of a sudden there's so many. What's for dinner? She's making this incredible pasta short rib dish. That's like my favorite thing in the world. So I'm so happy. Hey, happy birthday! Thank you. Oh no, he's back! Shoot, he's back! No. Oh, No, I rewatched The Dark Knight Rises recently. I really do love that movie. I think it's beautiful. It's really good.
So, have you answered Kimberly's question yet?
No, I was looking at the chat window.
Okay.
To an interesting one about if the Rainmaker would be a sociopath anyway, which I obviously don't think so. I think that it's the whole premise of the film is Joe's intervention and the way that causes Sid and Sarah to bond, gives a glimpse of hope for Sid not becoming the Rainmaker in the future. That's kind of the whole premise at the end of the film. And but part of the interesting thing is as an audience, you can buy that or you can't. There's no way we can know what happens in the future, definitely. And so
Wait, so are you
that's
saying
just kind of where we
are you saying
sit
that the
down.
the Rainmaker doesn't grow up to be Rain Man?
Doesn't grow. That would be awesome. That's the sequel that I want to do. I want to get Dustin Hoffman back in the saddle
Sold.
and have him.
Sold. All right, we're gonna ask Kimberly.
Have him go on Jeopardy and then like TK Trebek.
All right, we're gonna ask Kimberly Davidson's question. She wants to know what was the most difficult part on directing Looper.
It was actually a really easy shoot. We had just a really good group of folks, and we were in New Orleans, which is a really fun town. And I don't think with it, the diner scene was probably the toughest thing to direct, actually, even though it was just two guys sitting across from each other, because it was a good like 10 pages of dialogue in the original script, and so it was just, it was several camera angles, and it was, even though we were just sitting still all day, I found myself exhausted at the end of the day because your brain is just keeping track of this algebra of, okay, we have this line from this angle, but this from that, have we got this moment, have we got that moment? So that weirdly was actually tougher than any of the action scenes or any of the more physically demanding stuff in the script.
Fantastic. All right, next question. Hey Ryan, just so you know, whenever you are ready to have your birthday dinner, give me a heads up, and so I can we can do the
Oh,
final.
well, you want to go for another? I don't know. What time how are you doing over there?
It's your
What time you
it's
want to
your
go for?
birthday, baby boy. So you just let me know.
Call me baby boy.
Baby boy.
I think we're done. I think we're done.
You and I are done, but the fans, you guys can keep going. All right.
I don't know. You want to go another like 20 minutes or so, or 15, 20 minutes or so?
Yeah, let's do it. Now we got Miles on. Miles,
right.
take it away.
Hey, Miles.
Hey, thanks a lot. Hey, Randy, Chase brought me on the breakfast ball. We watched that movie.
Hey, Miles, you sound like a robot, man. I can't hear you. Hey, Miles, I'm sorry, man. Did you get the same kind of like voice
Yeah,
coder type?
yeah, I
Okay.
did think it was a robot. So we're gonna, sorry, Miles, we're gonna bring someone else on, but we still love you.
Sorry, Miles. I couldn't understand the question, man. I'm sorry.
Even though you're miles away, we still love you.
Mm.
All right, we're gonna bring on someone else, and that lucky person is suspense. We're gonna leave you in suspense, Ryan. That's gonna be Ross. Hi, Ross.
Oh, cool.
You're up,
Hey,
sir.
Ross.
Big fan. Honored to talk to
Oh,
you.
thanks, man.
I was wondering, all three of your films have been stylistically very different. So I was wondering if you know what you're gonna do stylistically for your fourth film.
Thank you. Yes, sort of. I'm figuring it out still. I'm still in the phase where I wander around with one of these all day and just kind of work it out. But I have an idea now, and I've got something that I'm down the road with a little bit. And so and in terms of the style of it, I don't know, that actually forms a little later, because that usually comes from just whatever the needs of the story are, I guess. You kind of try and tailor the style to whatever is going to most effectively get across wherever you're trying to get to by the end of the film. So that kind of develops as we go along. But I do have a story that I'm kind of chugging away at a little bit, and it's also sci-fi, but it's sci-fi in a way. It's very, very, very different than Looper, though. But
Is Joseph Gordon-Levitt gonna be in it?
oh, I don't know actually. I'm not sure whether I'm still. It's still too early to figure out whether there's a I whether he is or not. I hope we get to keep making movies together for the rest of our lives. I love that guy, but as to whether this next one will be one for the both of us, I'm not sure yet.
Okay, we can only hope.
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot,
Appreciate it.
Ross.
Cheers, Ross.
All right, we're gonna lucky number blank 700. Let's see who it is. Who it is? You want to guess? Play a guessing game. Who do you think's next, Ryan? Grant? You think?
This is Grant Grollins.
All right, Grant, you're up.
Hey.
Hey, Grant.
Right, so I have like one question. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a weird question. Okay, so I saw Life of Pi recently, and I saw that they used the 3D effectively. Think you recently said that 3D can be really shitty sometimes,
Mm.
and it can be. But I think Life of Pi really used it well. And I was wondering, did you ever think about shooting in 3D, or like would the budget be too big?
I haven't seen Life of Pi yet. It's on my list of stuff to see. But I have said, like Hugo, I thought used 3D incredibly well, and I've seen movies where it has used it really well. So I wouldn't just like broadly shit on 3D. I wrote something on my Tumblr that kind of just because I felt frustrated with 3D. The 3D talk was kind of sinking down into a 3D sucks, no, you suck type of discussion, which wasn't that interesting. And so if you go on my Tumblr and search, I actually wrote up some thoughts that I had just on talking about as someone who doesn't like 3D, essentially, as someone who would never really, at least in its present form, would not want to shoot in it, writing something that was still an appreciation of it and an appreciation of what it does and what it's trying to do, and kind of what a great filmmaker who uses it to a specific end can accomplish with it. That's probably yeah. If you look that thing up, you'll see some of my thoughts. But no, so broadly, no, it's not something that I would want to shoot in, but I'm always excited when a great filmmaker like Ang Lee, for example, takes it on. I'm always excited to see what they do with it.
Okay, and I have one more question.
Yeah.
I just want to know, so who do you, who's your inspiration as like a director? What directors like inspires you a lot?
Well, there's I'm sure with you too. There's like a bunch of them, right? There's like just a ton of directors that you love. Right now, one specifically, just right now is it's not like I'm pulling an obscure director out of my hat, but Chris Nolan is actually someone that I look at what he's doing specifically in terms of the way that he makes movies that are huge and that reach mass audiences and that are kind of cultural events when they happen, and yet they're still personal, well-crafted movies that come straight, obviously, like straight out of him. They're still Chris Nolan movies, and that's magic to me.
Yeah.
That's something that's just incredible. And
Yeah,
so
because
that,
like Joseph Gordon-Levitt said like once he said that Christopher Nolan makes movies that make people they're able to go to the movie theater and like watch a movie just as a movie, and they can also talk about it afterwards. And I think your movie like Looper did that too, because a lot of people there was like a lot of talk about Looper and stuff. So I think I don't know, you guys are kind of the same to me.
aw.
Which is cool.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I hope so. That's the goal, right? Is to layer something so that you got something to talk about afterwards. That's kind of what you always reach for.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Cool. Thanks, Grant. Oh, Chase, I lost your audio again. Can't hear you.
Hear me?
It's kind of nice, actually. Oh, now I can.
Hello, hello. So we're
Hello.
gonna have one more a fan question, and then you and I are gonna talk
Cool.
briefly about the Blu-ray and the release, and then we're gonna call it a day. So Kelly, you're asking the very last question, so make it worth it. No pressure.
Hey, Kelly.
Happy birthday.
Hey Kelly, your audio is really low. Can you turn it up
Or speak loudly.
or yell?
Can you hear
Perfect.
me now?
Yes.
Okay. So, my question was just regarding the score for the movie that Nathan created. I was just wondering, because I'm really into like film scoring and stuff, how you conveyed to him the ambiance for it, because I feel like it's so specific in parts that like you can feel exactly like the feeling you were going for. I was just wondering.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I'm really happy to talk about it. Yeah, Nathan. Well, Nathan and I we're it's kind of like Joe. Like we have, I think, a really good working relationship because we have a really tight personal relationship. We've been making movies with each other since we were 10 years old. So that helps because I think the process of it is we start really broadly and we start just talking about like the feel of the score and the instruments. One of the things that we, besides deciding to try this thing of creating an orchestra out of kind of found sounds, which Nathan goes into a little bit in those video vignettes that he posted online, which I don't know if you got a chance to see. He did these amazing making of videos that you can find online about the Looper score. If you search for them, they'll pop up. But besides technically what he did, where he would records very small sounds and then put them in his computer and slow them down 3,000% to create these massive sounds and then sample those and turn those kind of into an orchestra. Another one of the big approaches that we took was on both Brick and the Brothers Bloom, we've had a lot of different melodies that have been like themes that have run through the whole movie. And for this, there's really only one melody in the whole film. And the simplicity of that was something that we both decided on very early, that we were just going to have one melody, one main theme, and then we would change the instrumentation and we would meld that and we would have that kind of carry the whole thing. So and then in terms of moment to moment, that's just a matter of scene by scene. We sit down and he takes a pass at it, and generally he gets it pretty close because he can feel what the scene needs to do, and he just kind of sculpts the music to the scene. But then we'll say, okay, that moment it does, and you can immediately tell. You're like, that moment doesn't feel like the score is lining up with the emotion in the scene. What do we do? Is it an instrument we need to pull out? Is it too major? Is it too bright? Is there too much going on? Do we drop it out completely? And so it's just a long process of talking through it moment by moment. And he and I, like, we tend to be really hands-on. We tend to like to get in a room together and actually talk about the score note by note and really hone it down. So.
Great. Thanks a lot, Kelly.
Make sense?
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
All right, Ryan. Let's go ahead and wrap this up a little bit. We're going to talk about this guy again. Still not open. Still
so jealous.
Still packaged. You might get one.
All right.
We'll see if you've been a good boy this year.
Pick one up.
So you mentioned on Looper's Tumblr that some of your favorite individual scenes ended up on the cutting room floor, and I wanted you to tell your fans and all your readers one of maybe one or two of the scenes that ended up on the cutting room floor that you liked the most.
There's actually there's a ton of stuff. There's a lot of the stuff that's in the deleted scene. There's a bunch of Kid Blue stuff, which is really cool. Originally, there was because Kid Blue kind of had this detective work that he's doing in the background of the second half of the movie, where he's tracking down older Joe. And one of my favorite deleted scenes in the whole thing is it's not going to sound like much when I describe it, but there's this he kind of interrogates this cop in a car, and there's this scene between the two of them, and I'm not going to be able to do justice to it describing it, but it's just I thought the scene was really funny and really good, and I was really bummed that we had to cut it. There's also there's a scene, a really beautiful scene, even though it has a lot of temp effects in it, that Bruce had after it's after at the end, after he sees that Susie, Piper Parabo's character, that it's her kid, and he goes away. Originally, we had a bigger moral conflict for him, where he actually like takes out his gun and is going to throw it away and is going to give up the quest. And as the gun is slipping out of his hand, we see in his head what he had described before, this cloud kind of overtake these memories of his wife that we had seen before. And this is actually the scene that Shane, I talked before that Shane Carruth, the director of Primer, and I had started to collaborate on some of the visual effects. This was a scene that was going to be for, even though the temp effects in the deleted scenes are not Shane's effects, but this is the scene where we're going to come up with a way for this kind of crystal fog to overtake these memories. So that's interesting. And again, it's a sort of thing where I think with all the deleted scenes, you're going to see immediately, oh, I see why they cut that. Even if the scene itself works, you can immediately see, but I didn't really need the movie to stop and show me that at that point. What else? There is a longer cut of the China sequence. It's not the cut that was released in Chinese theaters. It's actually my very first cut of it, which was all done to this Chopin piano piece. And there's a lot more in it, and it has a very different tone than what ended up in the film. I think what we ended up with is much stronger, but I think it's interesting to see kind of this is more like how it was originally conceived and put together. Yeah, and then there's God, what else? There's more stuff. There's a whole sequence in a bordello that's in the club that with Piper's character. There's like I mentioned, a lot of Kid Blue stuff. There's a couple. There's an extension of the scene with Sarah and Jesse, the Gatman, Garrett Dillahunt's character. And originally, there's a whole other section where they're going through the house together, and they.
Uh-oh. We may have lost you. Looks like we lost Mr. Johnson.
Oh.
You're back. You're back.
Hello? Hello? Where'd you
I
lose
never
me?
lost you in my heart.
Anyway, is it scene? Oh. So anyway, yeah, Sarah and Garrett. There's another whole scene between them, which again I really loved. I think it plays really well, but it was just a thing where that was going on for too long. So anyway, I'm super excited to hear what people think of these scenes. You hear the feedback on them. I'm really happy they'll be able to be seen. And I think the Blu-ray has a ton of them, and the DVD I think only has 5, which I apologize for, but it's actually just a technical thing. You can't fit as much data on a DVD, so the more extras you put on it, the more you have to actually compromise the video quality of the movie. So, but yeah, I'm psyched for people to see it, and I think there's a couple making ofs on it also. Zach's animated trailer, which my cousin Zach Johnson, he's Nathan's brother. He's an incredible artist. He's a painter, and he did this phenomenal. I posted it. You can see like a Vimeo version on the movie's Tumblr. But he made this incredible painted animated version of our trailer, and that's going to be on the DVD or on the Blu-ray as like a full res version. It's
fantastic.
really beautiful.
All right, let's
What else?
let's
is
do
on there?
some product placement chats. So the Blu-ray comes out December
Oh, God,
31st.
I apologize.
You can get it on
31st, blatant
But
pandering here.
if you can't wait that long,
Yes.
if you're just as excited as me, you can get it this Friday, December 21st, digitally from iTunes, Vudu, and Sony Pictures Store. And if you can't wait that long or you're broke, you can actually go to my website, chasewell.com. I'm giving away some Blu-rays and these fancy Looper watches, that slick one that Joe wears in the movie. And also, starting on Friday,
Nice.
if you like Looper on Facebook, they're giving 5 of these away. So they're going to give away 80 total. So make sure you like Looper on Facebook. Tell all your friends to like Looper on Facebook. And to close this off, where'd it go? To close this off, I need everyone to tweet Ryan happy birthday. Make sure you use his correct new professional Twitter handle. Tell him happy birthday and you love him. And thanks a lot for your time, Ryan.
I'm clicking over to the chat window to say thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'm sorry we didn't get to everybody who had a question, but thanks for joining us. This was really
Thanks a
fun.
lot.
And thank you.
We had a great time. Enjoy your dinner, sir.